Hey YouTubers, this is just a video on replacing your tie rods on a 2005 ZX4 Ford Focus S model. As people know, sometimes it's difficult to get the inner tie rods off because this is smooth, and the tool that you get like at auto parts store to rent won't get that. For some reason, these both look like original, but this one has that flat spot where you get that tool on, as you can see, which is odd because it looks like the original tie rod, as well as this is the right tie rod here, and it's the original one because there is the right with the Ford logo on the outer. Now somebody might have changed this tie rod a long time ago. I don't think so, because this is the one that actually is bad. This one's really like wobbly and moving everything. The left one is the one without the grooves, but is in much better shape. So I wasn't aware that they sold tie rods without the groove. I thought those were original, but anyway, I mean, this one's real tight still. You can't even. But if I'm changing one, I'm changing the other, because both. Both boots ripped, and that's what caused this one to go bad. It was all full of rust. Now, there's a couple ways to get it off. You can rent the tool with this. The flat spot would be excellent, but the tool is really not going to work. They also sell one with a camber or something. I think it's kind of expensive, but I saw this thing on through YouTube, and I got it on Amazon. You can get it in other places, and I'm not a sponsor of Amazon, and I'm not a mechanic, but if you do something like this, you know, it's at your own risk, you know, raising the car up, getting this stuff off. But this thing, you know, worked. It worked for me. I've heard people it didn't work, it slips, it slides. Now it worked a little easier on the one with the groove, because you get a little more bite on it. The one with the other groove, without the groove, you have to tighten down pretty good. Now when you tighten this thing down, I'm gonna, you know, I can't really do this one-handed, but as you can see, you know, it goes around that thing, the end like that, and this part is what screws into the rack and pinion. Now this one doesn't look like it had any thread locker on it. The right one did have thread locker. The left one did not have thread locker. But when you tighten this down on the end, you have to make sure. I put some washers on there, so because it looked like it was getting ready to bottom out. It's a little more space. But when you tighten it down, you have to make sure that you do it evenly. I mean, it has to be even. And also, this part here, make sure it's grease free. You need to really clean that thing. Use some brake cleaner. I use brake cleaner to clean everything. Make sure this has no grease on it. These sides, and this, because it's got teeth on it to bite down. And also this, so it doesn't slide. Now I wish they would have made it a 1/2 inch drive, but it's a 3/8 inch drive. And this thing, you know, you have to use your extensions. I didn't have to, you know, get the adapter to bring it up to a 1/2 inch. I started out with the least amount as possible. You're gonna need your extensions to come out, and I got it to break free, both of them. It was a little, you know, there was some pressure on it, but this didn't slide on me. Like I said, you got to make sure you tighten these down equally, like one turn, one turn, one turn, one turn, and you don't want to. It's one of those things you just got to feel it out, because if you over tighten it, it's gonna start, it'll bend, or it'll eat these threads up right here. This thing is a $15 tool, so you get what you pay for. Now I already knew that. So I was just like, well, let me give it a try. $15 instead of having to rent a tool or go buy, you know, a $100 tool, $50 tool, rent tool, you know, $200 deposit, blah blah blah. I figured $15 was worth the investment to give it a try, to go out of my way. Now, putting it back on, yeah, sure. I mean, I know I could tighten it down is the best I can. I'll get it tight. But I'm also going to use thread locker and let it set up for a day or two, so that will keep it from slipping. And that's probably the best thing you can do. So I'm not gonna put a link. You can go search this thing. There's plenty of videos on them. Some people say, hey, they work great. Some people say they suck. But for 15 bucks, and it was like I ordered it Saturday. I got it yesterday. So I mean, I couldn't go wrong, you know. Now I'm just waiting on the tie rods because I ordered those through Rock Auto, and I'm not a sponsor of Rock Auto, but they had the cheapest ones. So I figured, if I change one, I'm gonna change both, and you know, and both the outer tie rods too. Because what's the point? Because both boots were ripped. So if you do this, I'm just saying, you know, this car is what, 15, 16 years old, something like that, right? I'm not a mathematician, so it's like 15, whatever. So what you can do is I would recommend getting both boots too, because most likely they're going to be destroyed. I live in Texas, but this car came from Illinois, so it's pretty well rust underneath. So you know the rust is going to eat that rubber up and, you know, wear and everything. So, but other than that, you know, this tool right here, it worked for me, and I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, because sometimes these things are probably pretty tight. But I put the washers on to give it a little more, so it wouldn't bottom out, and a little more, you know, to spread out the compression on the whatever there. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to say. Try to spread it out some. So other than that, that's all I have for the tie rods. Let me pause this so I get under the car, and I'll show you and go from there. Okay, now this is the rack and pinion, and this is the end up here. Oh, sorry, this is the end up here. The boot comes here and goes out down the tie rod. So when you take this off, make sure you clean this. Make sure you keep this end clean. Let me come over on this side. Over here, let me see, focus. You could see the grooves. That's the other end. So right now it's turned all the way to the right. So the left is all the way in, the right is all the way out. Yet again, up in there, you can see where the boot goes. You know, if I can get it off on this old rusty old car, you can see all the rust. I put some spray foam into that hole. But I'm just waiting on the parts now. I've already changed quite a bit of stuff. It's lower control arms, and stuff like that, and new struts. And once you're done, you're gonna have to get an alignment. This is probably one of the easier vehicles to work on with the rack and pinion, because there's plenty of room to get that tool in there. There's plenty of room, space up. You have to take the wheel off and go from there. So if you want to purchase one of those tools, I would, 15 bucks, next day delivery from Amazon. Like I said, I'm not a sponsor, so I just looked up a tie rod removal tool and found it, and I gave it a try. It was worth the $15 to me. I don't know how long it's going to last. It's not a commercial. It's not a commercial tool, but it is something that'll work, 3, 4, maybe 5 times. After that, I don't think it's really going to last. You could see that the teeth on it are starting to wear out. So in closing, like I said, you could see, you could see where those teeth are starting to wear out. Now maybe you could file out some teeth and make it last longer, but this thing, I understand why they made it smaller, because it needs to get in small spaces to turn, because you're gonna go lefty-loosey on this. But I don't foresee this working, commercial practices, if I was, you know, a mechanic in a shop, it might be worth having. Just, hey, you know, some tools, this might be the tool that does the trick, and it did for me. So I would recommend, if you want to change your tie rods, give this a try. If it doesn't work, don't complain. It's a piece of junk. Well, it's $15. You get what you pay for, and I already knew that. And people complain about shit all the time, especially from Amazon. Oh, you buy cheap, you get cheap. Okay, you remember that. You buy cheap, you get cheap. So I wasn't holding my breath this was going to work. If it did, great. I didn't have to run down to the auto parts store and rent a tool, and it worked for me. And I know that I can get it just as tight, and with thread locker it will be on there, it won't come off. So in closing, have a good day, and remember, be safe. And this video is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a mechanic, and you work on your own vehicle at your own risk. All right, have a good day. Hope this helps.